Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first developer workshop of 2024. Before we get started, I've started the event now, but we'll give it some time for people to trickle in. I like to wait maybe 3 to 5 minutes. We've got just a handful of people in who joined early. So thank you for being early/on time. Greatly appreciated. Let's just give everyone else a few minutes before we get underway. Okay, so we're coming up on 3:05. So I think we'll just go ahead and get started once we get to 3:05. But in case you missed it, I said in the chat it'd be great to know where everyone is joining us from. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your name and where you're joining, I guess your name will show up. But yeah, just let us know where you're joining from, and we'll get started in just another minute. Hi, Ketsia, welcome. Okay, it's 3:05, so let's go ahead and get things underway here. Give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so can everybody see my screen? Let's just confirm that. If I can get thumbs up, emoji reactions, or just something in the chat, let me know that you can hear me and you can see what I am showing on the screen. Okay, great. I've got one thumbs up there. So I think I can be heard and I can be seen. Fantastic. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Thanks for everybody that was on time. Like I said, this is our first developer workshop of 2024, so I'm very excited to get this going. My name is Tolu Kalajai, and I lead the developer relations team at Paystack. If you've joined any of our developer workshops previously, then you're probably used to seeing Andrew on these. Andrew's my teammate from Nairobi, but he's on sabbatical for the next 3 months, so he's living his best life, and you'll be stuck with me for the next 3 months. But I'm excited. I'm excited for these. I love getting to interact with developers who are interested in and using Paystack. So hopefully we'll have some fun together while Andrew is out. Before we go ahead and jump into everything, I just want to cover some housekeeping stuff very quick. So this session should run roughly about an hour, at most an hour, 15 minutes. If we can keep it a bit shorter than that, then we'll try and do that as well. We will be recording the session, so as long as you registered for the session, you will receive a recording of it afterwards. But we also upload all our developer workshops to YouTube. So we have a YouTube playlist where we upload all the videos. And if you missed the session in the past, you can check it out on the playlist as well. But yeah, like I said, you'll receive a link and an email that will have all the info you need. And I think everyone is familiar with the chat by now. It seems a number of people who've shared where they're calling in from. I've got a bunch of thumbs up in the chat. So yeah, you can use the chat if you have questions at all. My teammate, Damilola, is also on the call with us, and he will be in the chat answering questions, helping moderate the session. You can also use the questions tab. So the questions tab next to chat in the bottom right. So you can ask your questions there. We have a Q&A session at the end. So you can drop your questions there, and I will save those for the end. And I'll ask your questions live, and we can answer them for everybody. Even if there are questions in the chat, I'll try and go through those at the end as well, and take those. But just as a heads up, I may not have my eyes on the chat the entire time. So that's why I have Dami with me. So he will help me out there, and he'll just alert me if there's anything that I need to pay attention to in the chat as we're going. Awesome. So next, I want to cover some general Paystack updates before we go ahead and get into everything. So these are updates that we figure developers will be interested in because they're updates to the Paystack product or to the API, just things that make life better for developers who are working with Paystack. Our first update here is API error types and codes. So if you're used to Paystack errors, traditionally, we send you a status and a message indicating what the error was that you received. We've added some new fields to that to give you more information to use when you're trying to debug your Paystack integrations. So we now include type, a code, and a meta object, which includes a next step parameter. So the types here just describe what type of error it is that you're running into. There are currently 3 types that we have: validation errors, API errors, and processing errors. Validation errors are your usual 400s. So maybe, something you sent in your request is incorrect. So you know where to look when you're trying to troubleshoot it. API errors are errors that are happening on the Paystack API. And so that's probably an issue that's out of your control. So if you're getting one of those errors, you want to reach out to the Paystack team. You can reach out to support, and we'll help you troubleshoot whatever issue you might be having. And then last but not least, processing errors. So as you know, Paystack works with a lot of partners, with banks, processors, and the likes. And so oftentimes the errors that you get will be from these third parties. And so that's usually what a processing error is. For example, if you tried to charge a card and say that card had been blocked by the customer's bank or had expired or something like that, that would be a processing error. The part that I want to focus on here, though, is the next step parameter. So we're trying to make it easier for you to troubleshoot your errors and figure out what you actually need to do to fix them. And that's what this next step parameter is for. It contains more information about the error that should help you troubleshoot and suggests what the next step is that you should take to try and fix the error that you're experiencing. So, Dami, I think we have a link as well. All the explanations that we include in the next step field can be found on the Paystack API documentation. So if you visit that page, you can see what all the errors are and how we suggest that you troubleshoot them. And I think Dami has a link to that he can share in the chat. All right, next up, Ghanaian bank account transfers are live. So for some time now, for our developers joining us from Ghana, you've only been able to transfer money to customers' mobile money wallets. We've now added the feature where you can transfer money to bank accounts as well. So you can collect customer bank account details and make transfers to their accounts. And last but not least, Pay with Apple Pay is also live. So in South Africa and Ivory Coast, that is, sorry. And so Pay with Apple Pay, we've had that in Nigeria and Ghana already, but we've now extended that coverage to South Africa and Cote d'Ivoire. So if you want to accept payments from any Apple Pay users across 60 plus countries, you can now do so in those countries. In South Africa and Cote d'Ivoire. So Dami will drop a link for that as well in the chat to the documentation, so you can figure out how to get started implementing that. And if in general, you just want to keep up to date with what's happening at Paystack, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. So firstly, you can visit paystack.com/blog. We share product announcements, how we built it, articles, and just other stories from around Paystack on the blog there. And you can also subscribe to the Paystack monthly roundup and monthly developer roundup, where we share information on a monthly basis on what's happening around Paystack. So the monthly roundup is more general. That one is just general Paystack news, while the developer roundup is focused obviously on news that be of importance or of use to developers in particular. Okay, so now that we've gotten past that, I would like to introduce a couple more of my teammates who are on the call with me today. So I have two members of our mobile team who will be taking us through the SDKs that we'll be talking about in today's developer workshop. I'll let them introduce themselves. PJ, why don't we start with you and just tell us your name, what you do at Paystack, how long you've been at Paystack, and where you're joining us from.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Hi, PJ. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey, what's up? So I'm PJ, Peter John. I'm principal engineer at Paystack. I work on the mobile team. And yeah, I'm joining from South Africa. And yeah, we're pretty excited to be talking about mobile SDKs today.
Awesome. Thanks, PJ. Michael, you can go ahead.
And hey, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm an Android engineer. I've been at Paystack for about 4 years, and I live in Nigeria. I live and work in Nigeria.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us. Very excited to have you guys here to talk about the new SDKs that we're building at Paystack. And so let's get right to it. SDKs in focus. So before we talk about the new SDKs, I wanted to spend a little time just talking to you guys about the old SDKs. So many people might already know that Paystack has had mobile SDKs for Android and iOS for some time. This is, I think, our third iteration of SDKs that we're building. And so just very briefly before we get into the new ones, I want to talk about the old ones, give people some context about why we are moving away from those SDKs, what issues or problems we felt like we had with those that we're hoping that these new SDKs will solve for us. I remember the first set of SDKs you guys wouldn't have worked on, but the second set you did. So you'll probably have more context on the second than the first, but you can still just tell us what you know about those and why we're moving away from them. So I'll throw it over to PJ first, I guess, and then Michael, if you have anything to add to that, you can do so.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I think the SDK that I know of as old, which is the one that we currently have live now, is it hasn't it's been around for about like 6 years. And Yeah, it's very legacy. It's been very focused on card payments only. And obviously, as you know, Paystack, we have multiple channels at Paystack, and obviously, so there's cards, there's Pesa, mobile money stuff, there's pay with transfers in Nigeria, um, and as we kind of like move towards kind of creating a holistic system for that, like we wanted our SDKs to kind of move along, but it was kind of a little bit difficult because also there was a lot of refactoring that would have needed to be done since the code was very focused on card payments. And then, yeah, just also the technology that was used was very old. It was very Java focused. There wasn't for Android. iOS was a lot of Objective C. There wasn't like, in terms of like Swift, for iOS also, there wasn't a lot of like Swift examples out there. So yeah, we kind of wanted to, and then also there's been like Jetpack Compose and Swift UI that's kind of come out also, and all of those things are things that people want to be able to use, and they want to use Paystack's SDK with those things. And I think it was quite difficult to do that previously. So yeah, that's kind of where the status is of the old SDK. I know, Michael, do you have anything to add?
No, well, just a little bit. I just want to add emphasis on the fact that we had to. We had a lot of problems expanding the SDK because it was built at a time when Paystack was very card focused. And so we've had to rethink our approach to it and rebuild it so we can start to add those newer payment methods and expand the SDK.
Okay, so in a nutshell, it's bringing the SDKs into the present day. I guess that's essentially what we're doing, right? It's like making sure that our SDKs match what the mobile scene looks like now, as opposed to kind of being stuck in the past, if you will. Okay, with that said, we can move over to talking about the new SDKs. So you guys have been working very hard on this since last year. And yeah, just tell us, I guess, a bit about what that's been like, what we've been optimizing for and building these new SDKs, what we're hoping that they achieve and solve, like what problems we're hoping they solve for developers who need to add payments to their mobile applications.
Yeah, I can jump in for Michael. You can go first this time, actually. Or do you want me to go first?
I think PJ covered a lot of this already when he talked about the old SDK, and it's where the first and most important thing is that we wanted something that works properly for our developers and we can expand. Because that was one of the biggest problems we had. We had a lot of people talking about M-Pesa and pay with transfer in Nigeria, and we really couldn't, add them to our old SDK without breaking things for a lot of people. So this is basically a fresh start for us. We took a good look at a lot of the things that people are doing these days, that people are using these days. So we rewrote it in Kotlin, at least for Android. There's some Jetpack Compose in there, and we just try to make decisions that we think are the best for people who use Paystack. Try to make it as lean as possible, and add as many features as we think you guys are going to need without, bloating it. I guess those are the most important things from my side.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think one of the other things is that we took into consideration developer experience. So I think one of the things is we wanted to make it a very simple API that people could use. And we wanted to make it as easy as possible to actually add to your own applications, because at the end of the day, it could be a little bit clunky the way the previous SDK worked, and sometimes like if you didn't do things like correctly, then it wouldn't kind of like work. So we wanted to be very simple, a few lines of code, and we could pretty much take you through the payment, pretty much do the payment workflow, and then get it back into your application and stuff like that. So pretty much what Michael said. And then obviously, again, we wanted to support Swift and Swift UI also on the iOS side. A little bit better. Obviously not. Obviously, the SDK would still work on UIKit also, and then obviously, like I said, in Android, very focused on building it in Kotlin, and then just making it a little bit more modern But the big focus was kind of expanding our current payment methods. So building and architecting it well enough so that we can move to the point where we do that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, particularly the payment methods. I think that's been one bit of frustrating feedback or frustrated feedback that my team and I have received from a lot of developers over the years, is that we've been very card focused with the SDKs. And so we would literally tell people, it's like, oh yeah, use the SDK for card payments, right? But then anything else that you want to use, integrate via the API. Whereas I'm sure a lot of developers are expecting when they come to us that the SDK that we're giving them will enable them to use all of Paystack's payment methods, right? So great that this is the direction we're moving in. We're recognizing that there are payments, I guess, beyond just cards, and that adoption of those payment methods is growing in many different places, in many different ways. Like Michael said earlier, M-Pesa is very big in Kenya. Bank transfers in Nigeria are a very, very big form of payment that we're now seeing a rising number of users opting for when they're paying on Paystack. So it makes sense that we would want to do this. Okay, so let's get into it then. Let's do some demos. So I think Michael's going to take us through an Android demo. PJ is going to take us through an iOS demo. And we just want to give everyone on the call a chance to see what these new SDKs look like, understand how they work, how to set them up and everything. So I will throw it over to, are we going back to PJ first? I think we went Michael first on the last one.
I think we're going Michael first.
We're going Michael.
Everybody loves Android.
Michael, let me know if you're having any trouble with screen sharing. I can stop my share so that you can share yours. It's just you should be able to share from the bottom. Now, let me know if you don't see.
Let's see if I can figure this out.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a little tricky. I may have to drop off and rejoin. I think I need to give some permission to Arc.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. No worries. We can go ahead and do that. Yeah. We'll hold on for you for a second.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's what happens when you're doing demos.
Everything fails.
And just a reminder to everyone, you can drop, if you have any questions as we're going, please feel free to drop them in the chat. You can also use the questions tab to drop any questions that you might have. And like I said, Dami is in the chat, so Dami can answer those as you're going, and then we can take the questions at the end of the session as well. All right, so Michael's back on with us. Let's see if we can get this set up now.
Just a sec.
Yeah.
I have no idea if you guys can see my screen, so just let me know.
Yes, it's loading.
All right. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of what we've done so far and like what the SDK looks like. Well, it's an Android project. I guess this is what an Android project looks like. But what we've done is we've built two modules here. We've built a core module that allows you to access Paystack's payment APIs directly by just making your own calls. But it's not exactly what we are advising people to use. It's a package that allows you to access it. It's basically a Java or Kotlin package you can call Paystack APIs without doing your own thing. It's cool because we expect that when we change things on the API side, we can update.
Sorry to interrupt. I just noticed in the chat a couple of people have said it's looking blurry for them. Can we see if we can, I don't know, maybe stop the share and share again? Let's see if that fixes it. Or I don't know if you may have some other blur setting that would cause this. I don't think.
Well, that's awesome. let's see. Let's see if I can do something about this.
Sure.
I'm going to try this again. I haven't changed anything, but I'll just try to share it again and see if that changes anything. I will.
Yeah, let's try again. My concern is if it's like a network issue and might cause it to. Let's try it again and see if it's any better.
Can I get some feedback? What it looks like?
Clear enough.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's my favorite troubleshooting technique. Turn it off and turn it on again.
Always works. Anyway, like I was saying, we have this core module that can allow you call Paystack's APIs directly. And we won't really be showing it today because it's not what we expect people to be using. We are trying to provide an API that makes it very, very easy for you to build on top of Paystack without figuring out what the details are. So we'll be focusing on this Paystack UI module today, which is what most of these things are, most of what we've built is based on. So I'll just go through a demo of what integrating with Paystack should be like from here. The first thing I'll do is open this build.gradle file, which is our app file. And the main thing we should be doing here is just including the Paystack SDK library here. I have this project here as part of this thing. Well, this is the line you should be adding to your build.gradle to pull in the SDK. I think we're at version 0.0.5 right now, but you'll get those details. But I will remove this because I'm just using the project itself to make this demo to make it as easy as possible. So I will include the Paystack UI module here. That's this particular module. And then I'll open up my main activity here, which is just something I have built, which I thought was running, but then nothing ever works properly when you're about to demo. So it's the small app that we've built here, which is just like a simple UI for you to start payments. Should launch in like 2 seconds. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's all it is. And I want to walk you through what it's like to include the SDK into something like this. You have a button that says Pay with Paystack. And for SDK, we have a concept called the payment sheet, which is basically the user interface that you use to access Paystack here. If you've used Paystack on the web before, think of it as Paystack's checkout, but for mobile, for Android here. So we'll have to create an instance of the payment sheet that would use here. But first, I have to define the variable here at the top. Init var. The payment sheet needs an instance of an activity. So like we wouldn't create it until on create block here. So that's why I haven't done it yet. So the second thing I'll have to do is build a Paystack object. That Paystack object is what allows you to access the UI, but it also allows you to access all the other APIs that we've provided here today. So I will call Paystack .builder, and then I will set a public key. I will come back to that, and I'll click and I'll say build. What this does in the background is just initialize an instance of the SDK and pass this public key, which I will set here as I think I created secrets public key because I don't want to show you a public key. So that's the first step. And then we'll move on to starting the payment itself. So the idea, I guess, from your app is that when you click a button, you launch the payment, you start the payment process. So for us, what that would mean is that you'd initialize a transaction with Paystack, but we don't want people initializing transactions from the front end. It's not the best thing to do. So we'd expect you to call your server and initialize that transaction there. So what I'm going to do is just create a small function here that should, start the payment. And then I will go through the process of initializing that transaction on my server. That server will call Paystack, initialize the transaction, and return something called an access code from Paystack. That access code is what you use to complete the charge process. I have a Paystack, a payment repository here, which actually does nothing except return an access code, but it's just to show you what this would look like in your own app. This would be you calling your server and getting that access code after it has initialized the transaction with Paystack. So I will initialize that repository here. Yep. Just a quick and dirty way to show you what we actually want to be doing. So I'd say access code equals payment repository dot initialize transaction on server. Okay, sorry, if the suspend function, actually there's absolutely no need for this to be a suspend function today, since we're just returning an access code here. So I will initialize the transaction on the server, and then I'll take that access code and I will call the payment sheet. I'll say payment sheet dot launch. And all I need to do is pass it this access code. When I pass it the access code, it will launch the it should launch the payment sheet that we use. Give me a sec. Sorry, demo problems. I can see a problem already. Calling launch on the payment sheet will launch the UI that allows you to pay with Paystack. But there's something I have missed, and I need to go back and do it. After initializing the Paystack object here, we need to create that payment sheet. We defined the variable itself, but never initialized it. So I will say payment sheet will be equal to payment sheet, and I'll pass it an instance of an activity, which in our case is just this, and then I'll pass it a callback. The callback is a payment sheet result callback. I'll just create that callback here. So this payment sheet result callback is what your app would use to get a result after we're done with whatever we need to do to complete the payment. It has a function called onPaymentResult, which returns a payment sheet result. The payment sheet result is a sealed class that has three children, three types in there. The first one is completed, the second one is canceled, and the third one is failed. So when transaction is completed, it's possible that it's either we have completed the transaction and the transaction is successful, or the transaction is in progress, as with payments almost everywhere. Sometimes it takes quite a bit longer for that transaction to complete. So I'll just run through how to handle these things. When transaction is canceled, most times it's because the user has canceled the transaction. When it's failed, it means something terrible has happened, and we're trying to tell you what it is. What we expect in this case is that you log this error somehow so you can keep track of what's happening. The third state here is that completed state, where it could either be successful, or in a very tiny number of cases, it could be pending or something else is going on in the background. So what we expect you to do when you receive a completed status is to then call your own server, which will call Paystack and confirm that transaction is complete before providing value to the user. You should never provide value to a user before confirming that a transaction is complete. Anyway, let's just go back here. So what I'll do then is to just run through the payment results inside of this callback. And we'll say if it's completed, we can just do something like show a toast. Because everybody likes exclamation points, so. Yeah, and then we'll also take a look at the other cases, which is what the next one is counseled. I now realize that there is an easy way to go through this. So if it's completed, we'll just say success here. In reality, what we want you to do here is make a call to your server to verify the transaction before you provide value. If it's canceled, we just return canceled here. And then the last state is failed, where we expect you to log the error that is failed. We expect you to log the error that is returned here from the result. So you can use it to debug. Give me one sec. Oh, sorry, forgot that we passed tags. This is pardon me. Yeah, just log the error. Ideally, you'll be logging this on a server somewhere where you can reuse it. Then we'll take the message and just display it. Oops. Oh, sorry. Didn't return, failed here. So we'll then pass this callback we've just created to the payment sheet. So that's what this code does. So it creates the payment sheet, passes an instance of the activity, and passes the callback that we can use to get a result after payment is complete. So we'll come back down here. Again, I'll just explain. The payment sheet.launch with the access code will launch the payment sheet, but then we have to call pay somehow. In this case, I'll do it on click here, this is the button you can see here on the screen. In on click, I'll just say pay. Easy, right? I'll just say pay, and then I'll try to run this and hope that I have not shot myself in the foot by doing a live demo. Yeah, so I will then click pay and hope not to get a crash, I guess. Yeah, so when I click pay, it should launch the user interface for starting or completing a payment with Paystack. The usual, right now we support cards. So your card number, expiry date, and the CVV for the card are the three things that you'd need to complete this payment. I'm just going to pass my card, which is a virtual card, which I'll be throwing away after this. 1124. And then I'll click pay. So when I click pay, it tries to charge the card and then realizes that I need additional authentication. So it shows up this view. When I click authenticate, it should load up a screen to show the bank page. This sometimes takes a bit to load up properly. So, interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
And this is where we're essentially would be performing our 3DS verification for the transaction, right?
Exactly. This is where we're doing that. Well, that's interesting. It looks like we have a bit of a failure here.
Problem with 3DS.
Yes. The demo gods are trying to get me. Anyway.
They're always out to get someone.
Yes, give me a sec.
Should we try it with the test public key instead, and we can just run through the test transaction?
Yeah, sure. I guess we can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
I can get the test card to the feed.
Live demos. I just want to get a new test key that I can use for this. Give me a second.
Sure. And again, everyone, reminder, just in case anybody joined a bit late, there's the questions tab to the bottom right of the screen. If you have any questions, you can drop them there. I see that a couple came in, so I'm holding on to those. Dami has shared answers directly to those people, but at the end of the call, I will also voice those questions out loud for everybody in case anyone had similar questions.
I'll just go back to my secrets here, and I will put a test key in here. And then an access code for a new transaction that we're going to do. I'll run this. So just go through the same process that we already went through. In this case, because we're using a test key, you'll see these these card types to simulate different payment scenarios. Tolu, I don't know if you want to give me the card number for success. I guess
for success, it's 4081, and you just enter that repeatedly until you have no more space to enter a number, I believe. So it's like 481, 481, 481. Let me make sure I'm giving you the right. Oh, 408, sorry, not 481, 408, 408, 408, all the way, and then the one is the last. Here, let's copy it and paste it instead of, okay, yeah, there you go, that's it. Then any date in the future, and CVV is 408.
That's really great. Well, that worked. But,
yeah.
But that's basically what a success case looks like for payment. We're still working on this, so issues like the one you just saw me go through painfully, are being ironed out. But that's what the experience should look like. The simplest payment experience should look like here. So I don't know if we have time to go through. Wow, we really don't have time. I was asking if we have time to go through another payment scenario, but I guess the best thing to do is just hand this over so PJ can run the iOS.
Run through the iOS. Yeah. Let's do that. We can extend the time a bit, but yeah, let's make sure we get iOS in as well first. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let me share my screen. Hopefully I don't have permission issues. I don't know what it wants. It wants me to share a window. So I guess I'll just quickly show what it looks like. I have to hit the share button. What it looks like in terms of iOS specifically. I'm guessing you can see my screen, right? Okay, cool, you can. So pretty much very similar to what Michael did. I'm not going to do a live demo because I'm not that brave. But pretty much on iOS, it's very similar. We try to make the experience very, very easy. we want to use we use the builder pattern in order for you to be able to create a Paystack builder, set your key, enable logging if you want to, and then build a Paystack object, right? You can see this is Swift UI. At this point over here, this is where your access code goes. So any access code that you get back from your backend, so pretty much like with this SDK, you have to hit your backend. Your backend needs to do an initialized transaction to Paystack and get an access code. You cannot use the SDK in any other way. And then once you get an access code back, we on our Paystack object we have this charge button. So if you know Swift UI, this is pretty much a button, and then we have two parameters over here. One with the access code goes in and one with a callback. So this is the callback over here that takes a transaction result. This result is very similar to what Michael had previously, where you have a completed state, cancel state, and an error state. And with that completed state, you get some details back. For now, you get a reference, so you can check your backend later. With the reference ID, to complete anything on your payment side specifically. And then if there's any errors, we provide the reference still and also the error that particularly comes back. And if you cancel it, then it pretty much does that. And then obviously you can build up your UI literally however you want to, because at the end of the day, it's just a blank pattern. So yeah, I'm going to run this, but then I'm also going to stop sharing my this screen, and then share another one, share the actual emulator.
PJ, just thought to let you know, we actually have a request in the chat for a live demo on iOS. No pressure, but just wanted to let you know that somebody's asking for it.
What do you mean a live demo? We're gonna live demo the actual sure. All right, cool. Do you see the actual screen on the?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah,
all right, cool.
Let
the demo. Okay, cool. Let the demo gods be with me. All right. I don't know what's happening. So like, let's see. Oh, my transaction ID is wrong. Let me just get a new one. I mean, my access code is wrong. Sorry, this is an old one.
No worries. I think actually, do you need to generate one? I can send one over right now. I actually have Postman open. So
nah, it has to be very specific.
Okay.
Because
you need it to be created with the proper secret key. So you don't have a secret key, so you won't be able to.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have my secret key.
Yeah.
Did it run? I didn't actually change the key. All right. Can you see my screen still?
Yep.
Hello? All right, cool. Sorry. Let me just go so I can see you guys. Cool. So also I'm going to do very similar what Michael did. This is also the live demo with a virtual card that's literally already about to be thrown away, also with no money on it. But literally 50 shillings. Well, 55 shillings. So I'm just gonna put this number in. Ta-da. 13. So one of the authentication methods. So what I'm doing is I'm using a USD card that has literally like 1 USD on it. And with USD with USD cards, it pretty much needs authentication for address. So you need to verify the address in order to pretty much do this. So, well, we have different types of authentication methods that Paystack obviously does. There's going to be PIN, there's going to be phone number, all of those type of things, 3DS. This is also one of them. This is going to probably be a big mission. Let me do this. I'm going to select California. I'm going to have to put in, what is the code?
Well, I think that's the city you're in.
That's the city, so San Fran.
Oh, I'm putting, sorry, I put it in the wrong place. 40. And the city is San Fran. And then and cool. So then it's going to come up with authenticate, same as Michael. Come on. These banks. Oh, declined.
Well, I guess, I mean,
It
this
seems
is
like
another
all of our demo cards today.
Yeah. But this is technically another scenario. Like, this is a real world scenario that we would see, right? Is that you could get a decline. So, and I guess the code that would run in this instance would be the error handler that you pointed out earlier.
Yeah. So pretty much, yeah, we get error handling. Maybe I used all the money and it's gone. So maybe that's the problem. I think I was doing it during testing.
It is. It's technically the demo worked. It just the payment didn't. You know. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, pretty much that. I guess we could probably do a testing, but it will be exactly the same as what Michael had.
Right.
I guess the demo gods today are not wanting us to pay
ourselves.
I was trying to pay myself, but I guess I can't. So yeah, you can click again. You can click and try another card if you wanted to. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, let's switch back to my screen share then. Yeah, you got a Fabawale says nice work on the demo. So yeah, I mean, as we can see, you've seen both the Android and the iOS flows, and I guess just recapping, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but basically the flow for any developer here is going to be initialize a transaction on your back end, which we are advocating for because it's the more secure way to initialize transactions. There's less of a chance that anybody can interfere or intercept an API call and edit values or anything like that if it's initiated from your backend server. Once you do that, Paystack returns an access code. You send the access code back to the SDK, and then whether it's Android, whether it's iOS, you're going to call a function that will load that UI that we just saw and let you complete the transaction right now by entering your card details. But I think we're going to talk in some bit about the other payment channels that we're working on that will give you the option for other payments. But I think that in essence covers the steps, right? Oh, and then like we said, for any transaction, there are 3 potential states. Afterwards, it's completed, it's canceled, or there's an error. And with each one, we provide a function or a callback that you can use to handle transactions in that state. I think I covered it pretty well, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's just it.
Awesome. Okay, and so I guess I want to talk about the roadmap, but maybe before we talk about that, I guess let's talk about how people can get their hands on this and essentially try out what you guys just demoed for us. And so for Android, Michael, what's the, I guess, best way for people to get started?
Right now we have a beta release on Maven Central. I think we'll be publishing some documentation on how exactly to get there.
Yeah, I think Danny has a link for that he can share. We'll have that on the developer docs soon, but I think we have beta documentation for the beta SDK that you can go ahead and share.
Yeah, so we have that. I think in the future, we also plan to, in the near future, to open source this SDK so you guys can have access to the source code completely. But like we just need to do some cleanup and make sure all our ducks are in a row.
Right. And then PJ for iOS, you want to take that?
Yeah. So for iOS, currently we can't access it, but we're going to make it accessible very soon via CocoaPods and Swift Package Manager. So yeah, it's definitely coming. We just getting security to give us the go ahead. Because we are a payment provider, we can't not have security. So for now the Android SDK, the binaries on Maven, and then on iOS, we'll be open sourcing and obviously getting everything on the CocoaPods, and also you'll be able to use it on Swift Package Manager also very soon. Also, once we open source it, so we're going to be open sourcing the code very soon. We're hoping within this month. So just kind of watch out and keep subscribed to Paystack, I guess.
Yeah, watch this space, as they say on YouTube. Yeah, great. I've switched over to the next slide, which covers some of what you've both mentioned already. So just high-level look at the roadmap for the SDKs for the rest of 2024, some of the things that we're hoping to achieve. So new payment channels, PJ and Michael already mentioned. The big difference that we have with these SDKs is that we want to offer as many payment channels as possible so that you can integrate the SDK once and have access to all those channels. So like they said, right now, card is available, but M-Pesa is already in the works. I think it's potentially done soon. I think we already started testing it, right? So hopefully that's released soon. And then we also, we have pay with bank transfer, pay with bank, QR, EFT, all these other payment methods. I'll share some more on this later, but we're very keen on getting feedback from the community on what payment channels you would like to see most. And so there's a feedback form that I'll share the link to later. But yeah, if you're interested in the SDKs, if there are particular payment channels that you're trying to see, we want your feedback on what you would like to see next. So that can help guide our prioritization throughout the rest of the year. As both of our engineers here mentioned as well, open sourcing these repos, so you'll have access to the source code of the SDKs, so that you can customize, meet your needs, but you can also make contributions to the SDKs as well. And last but not least, I saw some questions about this, so I guess I'm going ahead to answer them already. Adopting the SDKs for cross-platform frameworks as well. So I know we have a lot of React Native developers, Flutter developers. I don't know if we have as many Ionic developers anymore. I went on the Ionic website recently and the docs look great. So I'm assuming people must be using them. It seems like they overhauled the whole thing. But yeah, well, obviously, same thing. We want to know which platforms people are most interested in seeing integrations for. We're assuming React Native and Flutter will be the two most important ones. And so we will be working on releasing some open source SDKs for those as well that people can start adopting and using in their applications. 1 second, I'll get to my next screen. Okay, and so yeah, just now we can wrap up with a bit of Q&A. As I mentioned, I think I've already answered a couple of the questions that we had come in. So Precious asked if the SDK was available for React Native. Gideon had asked if there would be a demo for Flutter devs. So yeah, once we have the SDKs for those platforms, we'll share documentation, probably do a tutorial video, or we could have another developer.
Whoops. Totally dropped off there.
Yeah. I think,
Just give him a...
I think I don't know where he is, but he should be back. But I just wanted to say, I think definitely feedback from everybody in the community would be, especially from what payment methods. I think we're trying to make sure that we are catering for what people want. I think mobile money is pretty much our focus now, since we have cards. So we're going through each mobile money implementation in terms of like each country. So in Kenya, we have M-Pesa, so that's the one where we already mostly at the finish line. And then we plan on moving on to Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, in terms of those mobile money implementations there also. So hopefully those will also help out in terms of having people accept payments. And then I guess the last thing is what Tulu was mentioning around cross-platform. We plan to build SDKs on top of this for React Native and for Flutter. So any changes that we do in this repo will also then reflect on the rest of the platforms, the cross platforms. So yeah, just so that nothing is ever out of sync, because yeah, Flutter and React Native both can have native modules inside of them. So yeah, that's kind of our plan in terms of
Yes, sorry, I think Tolu is having like a technical issue, so I have to step in to like sign out. But yeah, basically, we have plans to support the hybrid developers, and we're looking to get that across as soon as we can. But we'd like to share, like, have feedback from people that are probably testing that would like to test and use the SDKs, and also like give us feedback on like features they would like to see on features they would like to see on the SDK, like particularly people that if you've used the old SDK before and would also like to switch to this new one. I think we would like to have those perspectives coming from the old ones to the new ones. But if you've not, please feel free to still drop us feedback. I'll be sharing the feedback link now on the chat for anyone that is testing and would like to drop feedback, or please share your feedback. Finally, due to the fact that the SDK is you initialize from the backend and you complete it on the SDK, we've created like a sample backend repo that you can reference or you can use. And if you also have other ideas around how we can make this experience better for you, please also share, because I know some people probably, a lot of mobile developers are familiar with like Flutter, Firebase or things like that. So if you have other platforms that you use that could make your integration into the SDK better, particularly because you're starting from the back end and completing from the front end, completing on your mobile app, please share feedback and we'll see if we can build around those platforms to make it easier for you. So one question left, and I think we can wrap this up. Makwasi, are there any plans to launch Paystack in Uganda? We have expansion plan. I should share a link. I'll see if I can find the link where you can subscribe to know whenever we are open in new markets. So once you access that link and you subscribe, I think once we are in that location, you can get updates regarding that. But we are trying to cover payments in Africa, so we should be near you very soon. Yeah, over to you, Tolu.
Yeah, sorry everyone, I got booted from the session. But yeah, I think Dami has covered everything that I wanted to at the end. Thank you all for joining. Please try the SDKs out. So like Michael has said, you can try the Android one. Once the iOS one is available as well, we'll send out an email to everyone, particularly everybody that joined this session, so you can try that out as well. Once you've had a chance to get your hands on it, or even if it's before then, you can fill out the feedback form. So we want to know things like, what payment channels do you want to see? What platform are you integrating on, so that we know where we should be focusing attention for like docs, tutorials, whatever might be helpful for assisting integration. And then like I said, we have a sample backend you can use. So you can deploy that on Render, you can deploy it on Heroku, you can deploy it with Docker, you can run it locally. Yeah, we're open to all feedback. We want to build these SDKs as much as possible alongside the developers that are going to be using them. So you all have the opportunity to help shape the direction that these SDKs go. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So let's reach out through the forums. You can email us at devrel@paystack.com or techsupport@paystack.com. Either one of those, the emails will get to me and my team. And yeah, we can help with any questions that you have. And if you haven't already, go to paystack.com/subscribe and subscribe to our monthly developer newsletter, where we share product updates, we share tutorials and contributions from the community. We share whenever we have new events coming up. And yeah, it just helps you stay up to date with what's happening at Paystack. All right, PJ, Michael, thanks again for joining us for this session. Dami, thanks for moderating. And to our attendees, thank you for giving us an hour of your time on this Friday evening, or morning, or night, depending where you're joining from. I say Friday, Thursday. I'm ready for the weekend. Sorry. I'm ready for the weekend. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We will see you next time. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.